Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I'm an idiot. and this, so the the video is gone. The video for the final episode, episode 10 of this thing. All the work that all the participants did, all the ladies did, that I did, all of it is gone because I don't know. Partially, I'm an idiot. Partially, I was just too tired. I've been pushing myself. Talk about burning the candle on both ends. I tossed the freaking candle into a damned inferno, and the whole thing's just been burning. And I screwed up. Last night, I was uploading that Planet Hulk um, issue number 2 comic book review. And the first one, it didn't go right for some reason. I don't know why. So I decided to upload a new one, and I was just going to transfer the information from here to there to make it easier on me. Once that was up, I went back to try and delete the first one. I don't know how, but somehow instead of deleting that one, I wound up deleting episode 10. I edited all of these in one day. I literally took the whole day, and I just, boom, I just did all of these episodes, all 10 of these episodes for the FASERIP season 4 Team B, the Atlantis campaign, and I set them all up so that 5 a.m. every morning, every Monday morning, the next episode would drop. The final one was scheduled to drop this Monday, the 19th. God damn it. God damn it. And somehow, while I was trying to delete the Hulk episode, I was dead tired to the world. I was sitting like this when the video finished editing. Even I was like, oh, I woke up because it makes a buzz sound, bring. So I was already nodding off like that at my computer desk when it finished editing. So it took even longer, obviously, to upload the damn thing. And I'm half asleep. I think I was listening to I was listening to the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and I was just so freaking tired. So when I went to delete the Hulk thing, to make room for the other thing on YouTube, for YouTube, I accidentally deleted the thing. Now, I struggled with myself. This computer is getting old. I'm running out of room. I've already attached a backup drive to this thing, and just it is what it is. I thought that I thought that I was done. Right? I was done. I was finished. There was no reason to worry about anything. Right? I had the freaking video, and I upload everything to YouTube. So I figured, you know what? To save space, let me delete the old things. If I lose them, I lose them. Whatever. What's the big deal, right? Idiot. Maybe I could have condensed the files and saved them. I don't know what, but the video is actually gone. I deleted it off of YouTube. I already deleted even the original gameplay off of my computer. One of these days I need to just get a better computer. Yeah. So I totally 100% effed up, and I am hugely embarrassed at how ridiculously stupid that was. Yeah, I think the best I could do is go, and remember, this was a game from 2 years ago. We did this 2 years ago, and I was so lazy about putting the stuff up because one member left, one of the team members. She was there for the first 2 episodes. She was also there for the 2... I had 2 session zeros, and whatever. Just she wound up not being able to play anymore, and then she got embarrassed, and she said, "I actually don't really want you to put up the episodes," and just it is what it is. Like she agreed to put up the episodes anyway, so whatever. It was 2 years later. I came across some music, the opening soundtrack, the opening theme, and the closing theme that I used for all the episodes. I came across that royalty-free sound. I was like, this would work great with my Atlantis episode. And that's all it took. That's the only trigger it took for me to say, I need to start putting these episodes out. Because there were a lot of people who asked about it. I know most people forgot about it, but it is what it is. guys, I really wish that there was more than one of me so I could do all the things that I'm trying to do right now. I'm in the middle of trying to write an RPG, and I got somebody helping me out with the mechanics because this individual knows more and has played more RPGs than I have. So they're giving me advice on, like, oh, well, this system, the thing that you want to do, this system does this, and the thing you want to do there, this system does that. So now it's about trying to find all these different things for different systems and saying, what kind of a system can I make that will incorporate all of those things so they can do everything I want to do? Because I want this game system to be able to support anything, any kind of gameplay that you want. I don't care if it's a supers campaign, a regular human campaign, a freaking mech campaign, like making a suit of armor campaign like Iron Man. I want to be able to cover everything imaginable, everything. I just want to be completely inclusive, and I just want to focus on certain genres and aspects in it. I wanted to be able to have, one-on-one RPG or a group of people together, or I want to be able to do mass combat and with or without miniatures. Like, there's so much that I want to do. I want to be able to incorporate giant space vehicles and things like that. There's so much that I want to be able to do with this system, and it's coming together, but it's just taking forever because I have to split my time between work, between learning more about the stock market so that I can actually have something to retire on one day. 47. You'd figure I would have done this stuff already, right? Nope. I'm also in the process of writing a children's book. I'm setting the thing up so, like, some people, they do one thing and they say, oh, let me figure out how to do other things. I'm in the process right now of writing a single children's book, but first I had to make the characters and the world setting and the whole idea concept so that I can write future books with these characters, and the whole thing is set up. So I actually had to make a small world, a very, very small world, but I had to actually make a small world so it's consistent. And I think it's got to be 32 pages long. And I even did it. So far I've got 26 pages, and yeah, it's not bad. This is the first time I've ever done, it's been a long time since I've done work, but like, here's some of the drawings that I actually did for it and everything. This is obviously the thumbnails. This is the pre outline for the stuff, so I'll do it better later. But for now, I just wanted to get certain rhythms that I wanted, like the emotion that was going to happen in it. Like, I'm doing so much, and that's besides working a full-time gig with overtime. I work a minimum of 44 hours a week. And there's a sales aspect to it also, which makes me put in my own time where I'm not getting paid for that time, but if it pans out, I get a commission from it, and it's a 5% commission, which is almost unheard of. Like, it's really good. So off of the sales that, selling one thing, like, I could actually make a couple $1,000s. I can make a few $1,000s from one reference. So I kind of make it into my own business. Plus I do my technical writing. I don't teach in the mornings anymore, so there's that. It's basically my way of saying I'm always tired. And that's to include the idea that I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I bring my kids to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and karate classes. My oldest son, I bring him to guitar lessons, and yeah, and I help them out with homework, and I sit down and I watch TV with them, and wow. Yeah, I'm doing too much. This is not me saying I have to quit some things. But yeah, I'm doing too much, and I'm sacrificing sleep more than anything else in order to do it. So I figured, wow, 9 minutes of talking about this. Listen, all of this to say that from 2 years ago, I still remember a lot of what happened for this final episode, and it was an amazing episode. And I still got one more episode to give you guys that will actually take you back to, I don't know when I'm going to put it out. Hopefully I'll put it out by next week, by next Monday, and hopefully make up for this mess. But if you guys have been following this RPG that I've been running, the Marvel FASERIP RPG from season 2 at least, which was over on the Nerderkey YouTube channel, then you will be super excited to see this one-shot episode that I'm going to put out. A lot of you guys will be like, holy crap! It'll answer a lot of questions. You'll see a very familiar face, and it could be really interesting. I think that you guys will really appreciate it. This episode 10, I still remember a lot of the key features that happened with it. What I do is I edit the whole thing. I get some gist, of what's going on so that I can do the edits properly. And then I actually watch and listen to the episode when I have, time afterwards. So I just sat down and listened to the episode 9. And it was a really good episode. Guys, if you didn't see it yet, these ladies, there's an all-woman team of players, and they all go up against Thulsa Doom. And it was really freaking good. Somebody starts killing their fellow team members, not on purpose. It's really good. Episode 10. Here's what basically goes down. So spoilers, if you didn't see the previous episodes, you should probably go back and listen to those. Give them a like, please, and maybe share them in an RPG community, because, yeah. Anyway, it might get me to make more of these, and shorter, hopefully. So in the final episode, they basically, spoiler, they were able to defeat Thulsa Doom. I did not hand them this victory. They were able to pull it off, and the way they pulled it off, some things they stumbled into. There was the scene where Megan, nowadays she calls herself Robin. She's changed her name to Robin. But she decided to drop her sword and grapple against Thulsa Doom. This was actually really important. She didn't realize this, but her sword wasn't going to kill Thulsa Doom. It's not magical. You have to have a magical item in order to get a temporary killing on Thulsa Doom. Permanently killing him is something entirely different. Conan was able to do that in the comic books, right? But nobody else has ever permanently killed Thulsa Doom. They were able to temporarily stop him, banish him basically for a little while, something along those lines. Well, that's what Robin was able to do. That's what Megan, in here, Megan R. Miller. Go check out her books on Amazon. That's how you're going to find her name, but her real name, Robin. And she, anyway, what happens? When she decides to wrestle Thulsa Doom, she herself is immortal. And there's conditions to that immortality, but she is in fact immortal. No mortal weapon can kill Thulsa Doom. Her sword is a mortal weapon. She is not. So that's the thing where when she said, I'm going to, grab him, I'm going to just pull off his head, I was just like, she's actually going to pull this off. Holy crap. So it was amazing. It was an amazing moment, Mind you, that's after they were all killed the previous episode. And Robin, Megan knew she was coming back. But anyway, so in this particular case, for episode 10, they have to go to Atlantis proper. Now, they realize that they're not just in a different time period, but they're in a time loop in this different time period. And a lot of the stuff that they'd seen, a lot of the stuff that they were in, actually happened 500 years in the future. So they were actually in a time period 500 years before the cataclysm that destroyed Volusia, the time of King Kull. They were there during the time of King Kull. But then they had to skip forward 500 years to fulfill the prophecies of I can't remember her name now, Jennifer Kale. I don't think I even gave them her real name, but Jennifer Kale, if you're familiar with the Man Thing series, not Swamp Thing, Man Thing in Marvel, she is one of the original guardians of the Nexus of all realities, right? That Man Thing is, Man Thing is supposed to handle. Man Thing. Is it Man Thing or Swamp Thing? Swamp Thing is DC. Man Thing is, yeah. Anyway, so they were created at the exact same time by two roommates. It is what it is. Anyway, so Man Thing, he's not here, but like he guards the Nexus reality. Jennifer Kale is one of those people. Jennifer Kale actually comes from Atlantis, and she was exiled because she predicted the sinking, the cataclysm, and the sinking of Atlantis. This happened in the time period of King Kull, right? 500 years after he was already passed from this earth. Yes, this earth. That cataclysm happened. There was already a cataclysm that sunk Lemuria. Now during his time, there was a cataclysm that sunk Atlantis. And then once that cataclysm happened and that, version of the world was destroyed, it would come back and it would be called Hyboria. And eventually that land would birth Conan, a very wild world that, is extremely untamed. And this barbarian would live by his code and his strength. Physical strength, but the inner fire also, and his wits. And he would thrive in this world and eventually, by his own hand, become king of a land called Aquilonia. Well, they were about to enter the week that this cataclysm would happen, that would destroy Volusia and sink Atlantis, and then eventually birth Hyboria. What do you call it? They went there, and what's funny is, in order to enter the city, this is during the time of King Kull, there's this saying, Kanamaka Lajarama, and there's different ways to pronounce it, whatever, but if you ever read the King Kull books, this is amazing, because there were the lizard people who, these were some of the primordial beasts. It's kind of like the idea of, what if dinosaurs eventually evolved to become, the dominant species on the planet after their own cataclysm, right? Instead of simians or simian-like creatures eventually evolving into humans, what if it was the lizards who were the main evolution? The world couldn't support dinosaurs anymore, so what would come up in their place? So there was these lizard men. In Dungeons & Dragons, you'd call them Wanti. So they were like that. And they were big on illusions, like the Rakshasa, right? There were Rakshasa in that world too. But anyway, they were big on illusions. So they would have these big, snake heads, these lizard heads. They were lizards. That's what they were. But they used illusion to look like other people. So they would kill someone and take their place. And they would now be lizard men. And this was a big thing. The ones who were in Atlantis had to stay in Atlantis because they couldn't get back in. Why? Because at the gates they would actually check you, and they would say, what's the code to enter? And it was Kanamaka Lajarama. Only a human being could say that, even if you were partly human, as the Inhuman. Suan is her real name. Tamara. She played Tamara, the Queen of Mischief. Suan was an Inhuman, so that's human enough, right? That's human enough. It's like 3/4 human and 1/4 inhuman. So she was able to say it with a little bit of difficulty, but more than enough. They chalked that up to whatever. Megan is an Atlantean. And I know that's considered an alien species in the Marvel RPG, but not when you look at the overall thing. They were all humans. Right? Atlantis was just a different continent. But when it sank, the people had to evolve very differently. But they still come from humans. So she was still able to say, the password. What's her name? Daphne. She played Mimi. She's a human. She, the big secret that we didn't really let on to was the idea that she can use magic. She's actually, her powers are derived from magic, and she didn't want anybody else to know, especially because in that world, if it got out, magic is never to be trusted, right? So it was a big deal, and this comes up later in this, what would have been this episode. So she was able to say it, no problem. The problem was Zirin, Lindsay. Lindsay's character, Zirin, is a Skrull. She was a Skrull Ravager. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Ravagers. She was a Ravager. And she was a Skrull. And the Skrull, in and of themselves, are what? Shapeshifters who are naturally green, who look like effing lizards. So when she tried to enter, she was said, you have to say the code. And when she said, first off, she tried to say it, and I said, you can't say it. She's like, why can't I say it? I'm like, remember when I said only humans can say it? And she's like, wait, I've never said it before. It's like, in all of the episodes, and I was very careful, all the other player characters had to say it at one point or another. But I decided, let me try to avoid Lindsay having to say it. If she chooses to say it on her own, so be it. But I will never actually challenge her directly to say it. And so now this one, where it was just a commonplace thing, where everybody knew, yeah, Kanamaka Lajrama, she went to try and say it, and she couldn't say it. And when she tried to say it, she wound up instinctively turning back into a Skrull, a green-skinned, lizard-looking, butt-chin Skrull with the big pointy ears. And they were like, oh, shit! They freaked out, and there was a battle right there at the gates, and it was terrible, and it was great, and it was wild, and it was a lot of fun. And if you remember, Lindsay's character, it was there. Lindsay has got one of the best laughs, and she's got like this nervous but face front energy, and she was just like, oh, what the F did I do? No, I can't believe I didn't think about this. And she's like, roll, oh my God, and try not to hurt anybody, but at the same time, don't let them hurt me. And it was great, and everybody had to come in and help her, and oh my God, it was wild, and yeah, and Tamara, Sue-Ann had to drop the illusion and let everybody see that, what's her name is actually a blue-skinned Atlantean, Megan. Oh my God, it was wild. It was a really cool moment. And that was just at the effing gates. Then they got, welcomed into Atlantis. They were welcomed for all their individual achievements. I had them all split up. Never split the party. This isn't D&D. You can split the party. So I had them all split up, and they all got to do something individually that enhanced their characters more. I don't remember exactly what those things were because I'm an idiot and I deleted the freaking video. God, so pathetic. Anyway, eventually it came that there was a big battle. They were actually attacked by the Lemurians. If you guys ever want to look up the end of Atlantis, immediately or cataclysmic Atlantis, it was actually a pretty big deal. There was a lot of prophesizing and people banished and people not allowed to leave and not allowed to speak, and it became kind of fascist, Also, during that time was Varn, the first of the vampires, who worshipped the old gods, the great old ones. All of this stuff came to a head in this. And David, it's, you know what? I'm going to call this karma, because the idea of an Atlas figure who held up the nexus of realities in some regards. Like the nexus of reality is actually Atlas holding up the reality. It's not holding up the earth, it's holding up reality. Greg Pak actually came up with that concept. And I thought it was an amazing concept, and I incorporated that in this game so that by using a certain kind of magic, or by seeing the way that Megan's character sees, they were actually able to barely make it out, but they actually saw Atlas holding up reality. Once Atlas, the nexus of reality is mobile, right? It's the physical, the actual, device is one thing. They didn't have to deal with that. They dealt with the actual nexus. And when the nexus point was supposed to come over top of Atlantis, that's when it would sink, because that's when it was in alignment. So they were actually able to see Atlas moving there. So go figure. I just got finished bashing the hell out of Greg Pak for that issue of the Planet Hulk thing. And Pak gets his revenge on me, karmically, and I wound up deleting this incredible freaking episode. Like, it was emotional, guys. We all teared up during this, because it was, like, my description of the Atlanteans and the way that, so many of them were killed, the battles and the sacrifices. There were a lot of sacrifices made. Trying to stop the Lemurians, who happened to be in a process of, pirates coming over and, we're going to take Atlantis now. And they didn't realize what was actually happening. What do you call it? But yeah, they were there for the sinking of Atlantis and how most people died, and the spell that was cast in Varn, beginning the vampiric cycle, the old gods meeting the new gods, and the celestial battle that had happened right there in front of them. Meanwhile, they're dealing with their own battle. There was a sacrifice made. I'm big on killing somebody at the end, or possibly everybody. I killed everybody in the end of episode 8, for Christ's sake. I just decided to bring them back in a really pretty cool way. Everybody seemed to like it. But with everything falling and certain sacrifices having to be made, and some sacrifices, or some people, dying, and and some of the characters try to rescue some. I don't remember exactly how it worked, but like there was cases where some of the characters would go and try and rescue some of the characters, and they would succeed. Other times they would go and try and rescue some people, and those people would die right in front of them, being crushed by like a fallen building, or an arrow going right through them. You know what I'm saying? And a pirate, putting a sword right through somebody. And, it's like, like, I can't believe you killed a kid. And they got up, and it just, like, a lot of them wind up turning into savages in some point. Like, I really played with emotions, and I made good people turn what would be considered evil or unacceptable in any other civilized society. And it was great. And they loved it. And at one point, they were able to form a portal. And the only one strong enough to, they were all trying to go through the portal. And then there were 2 of them left. And I forget who the other one was. But a pillar wound up falling on top of the portal. It's in and of itself going to go inside the portal, because it's separated from outside the portal, so it's not the way that the reality would work. Only things that belonged in the portal, which was going back to their normal time period back in modern day Atlantis, right? So the pillar is not from that time period, so the pillar didn't go through. But the thing is, it blocked anybody's ability to go through there, right? So like King Mu wouldn't have been able to go through. None of the current Atlanteans would have been able to go through, but these player characters were, but now it was blocked. So what Megan did was she used her strength, and she lifted this pillar. She was the only one strong enough, and let the other one go through. But the pillar was starting to crack from the other end, because that's how heavy this thing was. And she was straining as it was to pick this thing up, and she realized, I'm not going to be able to make it through. So she actually wound up sinking with Atlantis. This was important because, although it's clearly not said in the Marvel Universe, I indicated that using the spell, that when some of them, the magic users, the wizards, the sorcerers, were the royal sorcerers were dying, they were trying to cast a spell to save their people. And while it worked in the Marvel Universe, the official history of the Marvel Universe, in the Earth 6-1 Bill, my universe, there was no reason for it to work. They were dying, and there was no reason for that spell to work. But since Megan was there, an Atlantean from the current time period, that's how suddenly it was like, oh, a water breather who can do both. I can take from the part, they can already breathe water, so I can see from this person who is, Homo myrminus, and a modern day Atlantean like Namor, they can breathe air and water. Megan is able to breathe air and water. I can take this and I can just barely take the water breathing aspect of it. And since they were dying, they couldn't get both. They only got the air breathing aspect of it. And that's actually how it worked. Now, I know you might say, well, but then, that's not the way time travel works because, but that's how it worked in Terminator. So I figured I would leave it to be just a little bit askew, because when you leave something just a little bit askew, you can come back to it and try and, find a way to make that make sense also now. So maybe there was another element, an unknown, catalyst that caused this to happen. But as it stands, it was because of her that the people were saved, and they instinctually knew it. So when everybody is, drowning, the sorcerers, now there's no more sorcerers. They weren't able to benefit from their own spell. They were looking to try and protect their people. The sorcerers are all gone now, so all of this knowledge is lost. It's the reason why the loss of Atlantis, the people couldn't come back to the sea, couldn't come out of the sea. They couldn't come back to shore because now they can only breathe water, the ones who survived. The people were beyond decimated. Decimated means I'm going to take 1/10 of your people. No, there was like 1/10 of them left. And there were very few left, but it was through that the House of Dorma was formed, because of Megan's sacrifice. And this is where the other player characters were able to return. Now, they weren't able to figure out how to stop the destruction of Atlantis in the modern day. Remember how there was the nuclear sub, the rogue nuclear sub that came and launched a nuke at the glass wall, the glass dome of Atlantis, and it radiated the place and killed a whole bunch of the people. And this is their own miniature cataclysm, right? The most terrifying day of modern day Atlantis, where we always hear about Atlantis attacks, Atlantis attacks, Atlantis attacks. Well, this was Atlantis gets attacked, right? I kind of flipped it on its head. I flipped the script on this one. So they weren't able to prevent that catastrophe, but they were able to make it so that now the people knew what was coming. And when they go back and the people are safer, they're much safer because of this, because they were able to figure these things out. And I forget exactly how he did it. That's the problem with not watching the thing, but they were forewarned, so more of them got to be saved. But by them going forward on this, the only thing that had changed besides more people being saved is the idea that there was a statue there with all of their faces on it, including the original player characters who weren't able to, continue with the game because life. And Megan's character's face, who was, at the top of it, who is said to have begun, the House of Dorma started with her. And there was a prophecy that was revealed throughout time that only these player characters could hear about secrets, the secrets that we all keep. The secrets of Atlantis, the secret of how the cataclysm happened, the secrets of, all its death. I went into, and it's funny, I really went into character depth with these guys, and I put down, this is where everybody realized that Mimi actually had magical abilities, the secret of our inner magics. And, she's, oh crap. And they're like, wait a second. That's why your powers were different. You were using magic the whole time. Holy crap! And what do you call it? The secret of who you actually are, and bring it back to Lindsay and the Kanamaka Lajrama and whatnot, and the idea that she couldn't say it, and it was holy crap, and the secrets of why. Oh, for crying out loud, Sue-Ann's character was always illusion was her main thing. Right? There were a lot of secrets revealed, and then there's Megan's secret. Megan, if you remember, her character had just gotten married right before she wound up finding that Ryluthian temple, that Cthulhu, the temple of Cthulhu, the temple of Dagon, actually. where they found the headless figure, who was later supposed to be revealed as Thulsa Doom, because remember she ripped off Thulsa Doom's head, and it was teleported someplace and nobody knew where. So that was perfect. That was actually Thulsa Doom, and he was that version of him. He was crazy, and then he wanted to get back to where he was going. So they had to go back in time in order to kill Thulsa Doom, but the only way they could go back in time to kill Thulsa Doom was to be the catalyst of him coming back in the first place, so he can go to his ultimate demise at the hands of Conan. Like, I'm going to pat myself on the back. That was really great freaking storytelling. like I had them creating their own timelines, and not allowing them to realize what they were doing until it was actually done. So, haha. What do you call it? Anyway, yeah. So, it turns out that, when Megan's character got married that day to that head of the guard, they consummated their marriage, and she was actually pregnant. Atlanteans don't, I put it in there, I don't know how it actually works, but I just added in there, Atlanteans don't, even show, for a while. It takes a long time to have an Atlantean baby. It's not like 9 months and boop, there's a baby. No, it takes a lot longer. So that's the reason why she didn't realize it at the time. And just by, the secrets that we hide within our womb, like that, and everybody's like, and they knew right away it was Megan, and Megan, like, her reaction was golden. She's like, oh God. And like all of us, like myself included, like we were all tearing up. We were getting choked up majorly. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to tell this story while I'm getting choked up. And like, it was really a great moment. And now it's lost. There's no recorded history of this at this point. I could be making all this stuff up for all you know. I'm not. But, like, to me, it was an amazing story. And it was, yeah. And I'm not going to continue the story, but I just tell you. So the way that everything was supposed to be wrapped up, in a way, all the way back from season 3, the machine that was causing the magnetism and all this other stuff, the Kree decided to attack Earth. And the best way to attack Earth was to bank on their stupidity, to take their advanced technology and to bring it to the Earth, and randomly, allow the humans to screw things up. So there were actually a whole bunch of people involved in doing really stupid things, with this far advanced Kree technology. And that was what was going to, that's what was causing all this stuff to happen. And at the end, crap, I can't remember what it was called. What was the freaking device that called? Like, there are several devices that enamor me. In DC, the Absorbiscon. Hawkman's great. The garbage truck is here. Sorry, guys. The Absorbiscon that Hawkman used. It was a really amazing device. What was the device that... I'm not going to look it up right now. But the device that turned Carol Danvers into, a absolute powerhouse. And then through retcon later on, turns out just unlocked the Kree DNA that was already inside of her. Either way, this device, for the love of God, I can't remember what it's called right now. I'll remember it after I stop the record button on this, I'm sure. Anyway, yeah. This device was actually going to be there. And that's the thing. The only device that they were able to that they had to sneak on was a copy of that device, because that device can actually replicate itself. If you're not careful, it can replicate itself. So that's what it did. It replicated versions of itself, one that will control magnetism and cause people to see what they want to see, to understand what they're seeing, namely an illusion of Magneto, which caused the reactivation of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, who came and were fighting everybody from day one, from, mission 1 on my channel. All of these different things that were happening, the sub there was a rogue agent in S.H.I.E.L.D. because he was the one who actually had, I can't remember what his, Armitage, I forget what his name was. Anyway, the one guy who was in charge of Mace, I think it was in charge of Mace. he was the one who was actually behind everything for the most. It was a rogue agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. So bang, that's where all this stuff was going on. One of the extensions of S.H.I.E.L.D. So anyway, yeah, because S.H.I.E.L.D. was canceled, but none of the other agencies were. So that was the big, deal of it. That's the reason why S.H.I.E.L.D. was still able to activate once in a while, because the catalyst for S.H.I.E.L.D. still existed. The catalysts for S.H.I.E.L.D. They wanted their sister unit to continue existing. That was the S.H.I.E.L.D. was just the queen on the chessboard, but there's all these other pieces. So they would just simply get a pawn to the other side in order to reactivate the queen. If you know anything about chess, you get a pawn to the other side. You could change and bring back one of your pieces. So if you lost your queen, of course you're going to bring your queen back. So that's why they were always able to, and I just made into a big game of freaking chess. That's all I did. I just thought about Marvel, MCU, FASERIP, and chess. So they decided that one of the best ways to, cause chaos in the world so that they can use this device. The device, the name just came back to my mind for a moment. Damn it, it's 2 words. The power converter, whatever. Anyway. Yeah, she. So Namor was eventually supposed, while these guys were gone, or close to it, they were supposed to bring back the idea of Carol Danvers, Earth 616. So I'll just go to the Marvel fandom thing. Sorry, guys. This pisses me off that I can't remember the name of this stupid freaking device. Military hero. Psyche Magnetron. Yeah, Psyche Magnetron. Christ, I can't believe I forgot the freaking name of this thing. Anyway, so it's the Psyche Magnetron. That was the device, and it was trying to replicate itself, but instead creating all these other devices because the leader of Mace didn't know how the fuck to use it. You know what I'm saying? And his top scientists, they couldn't figure out how to do it. So I was eventually going to bring back, what the heck was his name? Oh, for crying out loud, I haven't seen the guy in forever. The one guy who played Light Show or Light Ray, I forget what his name was. He had the holographic suit in season 3. Anyway, I was going to bring him back, and he was going to be recruited in to try and make the thing work, and obviously he wasn't going to do it. Well, actually, I don't know, because he did have that dark side. But that's one of the things I loved about his character. He had this incredible dark side about him. So I don't know what he would have done. Maybe he would have went full Ty. If you remember from actually, so that was season 4. So in season 3, Ty actually wound up becoming evil and controlled all the Sentinels to attack the heroes and possibly go out and destroy all the mutants. Right? So it's a big freaking deal. I'm saying. So I was going to do a lot of this stuff and make them all fight him, right? And all of his machinations that he was able to figure out on his own. Anyway, so I never even told him about that. If he's watching this is the first time he's hearing about it too. Hopefully he would have said yes. So anyway, that's how this was all supposed to go down. Eventually this was all supposed to lead into crazy stuff happening up in space. The ultimate, goal of this was to lead to them going up into space. Because that's where the actual Psyche Magnetron was. Sword actually had it. That's where it was kept. But none of them realized, and Abigail Brand wasn't going to be there. She was going to be trying to fight to get it back. At the time that I was doing this, Abigail Brand wasn't in charge of these things. Captain Marvel was, right? Carol Danvers. So that was going to be the big deal where we were actually going to have, this stuff going on. It's funny. One of my plans was actually to get Raphael. I was going to get my buddy Raph, who's in charge of the Captain Marvel fan group, to actually play Captain Marvel, because nobody's going to know this guy, this character like him, he's her biggest fan, absolutely, and she was gonna, he was gonna play her in order to have. Well, I didn't actually ask him. I was going to ask him if he would, to get all these things happening and whatnot, and who knows? I was going to pull in some freaking contacts, man. I was going to call up all sorts of people and try and get, how, because I'm not using it right now, but StreamYard had just opened up into, if you remember my buddy Chris, who was playing in season 4, Team A, he only played the first half of the mission, right? And then he had to leave. because I didn't have enough space with StreamYard to get everybody in. So that was basically, what do you call it? That was supposed to be, I had to get rid of him so I could bring Doug in, who played, Light Bright, however, the different ways that you pronounce his name from back in season 2 over Nerdarchy, right? Anyway, so that's why I had to pull him out so I can get him in. And unfortunately, I was actually supposed to do a whole season with my buddy Chris, meeting all these other people. Chris is a childhood friend. I know him since high school, and we were supposed to explore his character background and his race of people that he put a lot of freaking work into. And I'm an idiot for not giving him the opportunity to do all this stuff. He's a really creative guy, and he just needs an outlet for it. And I totally failed in giving him that opportunity to do that. But I did tell him, and he's like, it's okay, man. I understand. You're busy. You're stretching yourself too far. He's a really cool guy, Anyway, yeah. So I stretched myself too far and I wasn't able to do it. But I did get one episode. Like I said, I will try to release that next week so that the world can actually see this really cool episode where a lot of questions from season 2 and on are answered. Anyway, if you remember the ending of season, or close to the ending of season 2, or was it 1? Anyway, I was going to tie everything together into this. Do you remember all the characters had gotten together and, yeah, so it would have been season 2. All the characters had gotten together and they went up to this big thing that Mr. Cyber, who was me, who was actually like Professor Bill, they went up into this big satellite where Mr. Cyber, same thing. We're trying to open up the DC universe into things. I was going to take everything back to that time, not through time travel. I was going to indicate like all these things were going on, but this hadn't happened yet. So I was going to bring everything together, and I was going to try and get Dave to come back and a whole bunch of people to come back, and and I'm sure Dave would have said yes. Dave from Nerdarchy, because he's cool as hell. I was going to try and get everybody to come back and actually see all these crazy things that were going on. And this is actually how the DC universe was being opened up. And I was going to make it so that they had a choice to actually allow the DC universe to come in or not. Or they could actually fall into the DC universe. And now we'd be playing Marvel FASERIP in the DC universe. So, I was leaving it open so that anything could have happened, Anyway, that's where all this was eventually going to go to, and yeah. As far as Megan's character, she got left there. She didn't die. She's immortal. She can't die. Eventually, years and years and years later, she would have washed up on the shore and, come back to consciousness and whatnot. Yeah, I was going to make it so that she could no longer breathe water. That's why. Sorry, I was going to make it so that the reason that the spell was able to use is that her water breathing ability, which is natural in her, was actually removed from her and spread out amongst everybody else. So that's why Atlanteans were now able to breathe water, not air. So she would have lost the ability to breathe water, and now she could only breathe air, and she would have been white-skinned, or she wanted to be something else. I don't know, whatever. She was blue. She would have turned into something else. She wouldn't have been blue anymore. Anyway, by this happening, she would have been unconscious under the water, and it would have been until years later when she would eventually wind up washing to shore that she would finally be able to breathe again, cough up all this water and, what the hell? And she'd realize, this stuff, and her kid would have actually been in stasis the whole time because, hey, magic, right? But now she'd come ashore and she'd have to try and figure things out. She'd have to battle through things, and she's an immortal, and she's super ridiculously strong, but she wouldn't have all this crazy stuff anymore, right? She would be landlocked, so to speak. She would have to survive as a barbarian in this world. And I would have eventually she would have had her child, and that child would have gone on, and eventually that child would be famous. It would have been a boy, and it would have been all sorts of famous characters throughout history, ending with Alexander the Great. The child would have been immortal in the Asgardian sense. It will never die of old age or disease or anything like that, but it will die from being murdered. Like you could kill it, but it wouldn't die on its own, right? So like an Asgardian level of immortality. Anyway, at the one point or another, yeah, this kid would have been born, and it would have eventually become what we would know as Alexander the Great. And we know how Alexander the Great met his demise. That would have been the demise, but Megan wouldn't have been. Well, she would have been around for that, but anyway, it would have just been more like a retelling of this stuff. Because remember, Alexander the Great's mother was very important in his life. Achilles' mother was very important in his life. So all sorts of he would have been Achilles also. There would have been certain things that would have happened. Like I wasn't going to make it so that he was killed by the arrows and whatnot, that she was going to find a way to bring him back. And it was, the legend of, oh, he's immortal. Yes, he's immortal. Just not her kind of immortal. She's a true immortal. Unless she gets into a spite match with somebody. But he's not a true immortal, but he's immortal enough. So she would have, brought him back, and the legend of the Achilles, heel, that would have been the big deal. Like, yeah, there's a lot to it, and there was so much that I planned to eventually happen, right? And the trials and the travails that Megan's character would have had to go through in order to go through this world. But she would have eventually met Conan at some point. Would she have met Red Sonja? Maybe not. You know what I'm saying? She definitely would have met Belit. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a really big deal that she would have eventually sailed on the Black Sea with Belit. The Black Tide, excuse me. And she would have absolutely met Conan. Would she have had a relationship with him? Maybe. Who knows? It's Megan. She a badass, what's so especially interesting about it is, Robin now identifies as non-binary, so I kept on saying she, but it's they. But, at the time, it was Megan and it was she, so I just try to keep it simple. Now Robin calls themselves, it's hard for me to say these things because it defies the English language, but it's a respect thing. I love Megs, so she's awesome. Now Robin, so they, Robin, they and their partner, Robin and their partner had a child a year ago. It's on Facebook, it was announced and everything like that. So I thought, wow, interesting. Was it from him, or is he that guard from Atlantis? But anyway, so yeah, Robin would have had a hard time playing an RPG anyway for the longest time, because really freaking hard to do that while raising a newborn. So it is what it is, Anyway, I did want for Robin to eventually, meet and adventure with Conan, and Conan would actually help in the raising of this kid. Not raising in that regard, but raising in the sense of, advice for this kid, turning this kid into a barbarian, into a fighter, much like Mom, but also much like Conan, which would have made this character awesome. After all of that would have happened, while I would have had the end story of Achilles and Alexander the Great eventually and all of that stuff, where as Alexander, he would have met his actual true demise, I was going to open it up so that a couple of other, PCs, people out there, you guys, could have eventually tried to petition to be in a game with Megan, Robin. And, you guys could all be PCs, and one of you could have been Robin's child, right? A child who has longevity, immune to diseases and poisons and stuff like that. Poisons, I don't know poisons. No, because Hercules died from a poison, so probably not. But diseases for sure, because that's just how the freaking genetic DNA immortality thing works. Anyway, yeah, bang, that. So somebody could have actually played Robin's son, which I thought would have actually been kind of cool. Anyway, yeah, these are all the things that I had. This is how that episode was supposed to end. This is how the story was supposed to continue and stuff like that. And yeah. Oh, I was also supposed to have a magic school campaign, which I think would have been great. It would have been beyond great. The problem is, since everything got delayed and like life just started happening for me and everything. Yeah, unfortunately, like I had all of this stuff planned, and I talked to plenty of people about it. You can look on the Facebook group and see way before Scotty Young did that magic. What did they call it? The Strange University or whatever, that the freaking comic book that I think is still running with Dormammu's kid and a bunch of other kids. You know, it's basically Hogwarts in the Marvel Universe. I had that idea, I think, 2 years before that comic book ever came out. And I publicly posted. Did Scotty Young or somebody else go on and see? Because I know I have a lot of comic book guys who want to see that. Maybe. And you know what? I don't care. It's my own fault for not, posting it. Or excuse me, for not doing something with it when I should have. Listen, something very key in business. You hesitate, you've masturbated. Right? You sat around, you're sitting around basically, screwing around. You miss out. And I wound up missing out. Like, it would have been cool if I could have done a whole, because I want to do Hogwarts and the Marvel Universe. And I think it would have been amazing, because like I feel like I tell pretty good stories. People tend to like them. I could still do something like that later. It's just I wouldn't feel right because it'd be like, well, it's already been done. I like to do things that nobody's ever done before, and there's plenty of things that people have never done before, which is one of the main reasons why I have such a big problem, a huge problem with comic book writers nowadays, because they're just doing stuff that's already been done. Do something that hasn't been done. To me, it's not that freaking hard. It's the idea of wanting to be paid for it. These guys don't pay very much. And they apparently treat their employees like crap. It is what it is. Anyway, so, yeah, for me, I literally just, yeah, I think that this could have been cool, but whatever. I don't know. So it kills me that I think this was like the final straw. You know what I'm saying? Like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. This thing got deleted, and like I was so tired last night. I was just like, you know what? F it. I didn't finish. I just, right before I started making this video is when I made that Hulk video live. So this way you guys know why this stuff happened, whatever. Anyway, yeah, just it is what it is. For me, this was like the final straw where I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do any more FASERIP anytime soon. I'll host for somebody else, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I will come back and do something on my channel. I don't know. But like, for me, like this is heartbreaking that this was such an emotional episode and it's gone. I accidentally deleted the only copy. Like, it's not even YouTube screwed me over. I somehow screwed myself over and I was too tired. And I went to bed and I was pissed. I was so pissed I couldn't sleep for hours. Which is a shame because of how freaking tired I was. So I sat there restlessly and I tried not to toss and turn because I don't want to wake my wife up. But we got one of those beds where like, it's not, there used to be that commercial where you could, jump on this part of the bed and the full wine glass on this side of it, or half full wine glass on this side of the bed doesn't spill the wine, right? We've got a bed like that. It's not that good. I don't think any bed is that good. That's some bullshit. That stuff doesn't really happen. I've bought that exact kind of bed before, and no, we test it with water, and no, the water spills. I mean, come on. But yeah, we got one of those ones where like she could roll over, and I'm not going to feel it for the most part. But still, like I was pissed. Wow, I was pissed. Is what it is, guys. Anyway, this is my lamentation for my absolute freaking blunder. Is what it is. Guys, if you guys have an idea for an RPG or, something for FASERIP, or I don't know, you guys have like a character design that you've been thinking about making, hit me up. Maybe I'll see it and I'll just think of something completely outside of the bill, the 6-1 bill, the Earth 6-1 bill, outside of my version of Marvel that I've created. Maybe, I don't know. There's so much that I want to do. There's so much that I want to do. My buddy Silva Surfer, Rich, this guy came up with a concept that I thought was brilliant, and it's right up my alley, and he knew it. He's like, you do whatever you want with it. And I wanted to do a stop motion with it, but it's, for me, here, this is the problem. This is my problem. I get concept paralysis because for me things have to be perfect. I'm too smart to accept anything but best. I don't like second best, and I'm too stupid to allow for revisions to be made. I don't want to do something and say, oh, well, I'm just going to revise this and do it later. I've got the characters to do this really cool story, but I don't have the backgrounds to do it. You see my dilemma? I want to make entire dioramas to do it properly so that it actually looks good. So I could do this articulated comic book art. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So since I don't have the space and the time to build these, and I'd have to learn how to do them properly because I'm not going to do like draw little windows on this. I actually want to make really good stuff. And I guess I could pay other people to do it, but I don't have the resources I definitely didn't have the time to have people build these things, especially considering that I know I'm not going to have the time to actually build this stuff. I'm doing too much. I'm doing way too much. And unfortunately for me, I've got to, and this is the plight of any creative individual, Michelangelo, Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci, all of these people, like you have to, it's not just about being creative because any dolt could be creative. You also have to have the business acumen to understand how you can turn this into money. There's plenty of cool artistic endeavors that have probably never been done. Why? Because somebody didn't know how to monetize it. And putting it out for free, most people aren't going to see it because you don't have the money, you don't have the budget for advertising it in the first place, right? So like it's a huge dilemma. You have to understand business. You have to have some level of business acumen in order to get things out there. I don't have the success that I want to with my channel to make it worth my while to put this stuff out there. Maybe if I stopped everything and I did, articulated comic book art and I told these stories, hey, maybe it could turn into something big, and then maybe Marvel would sue me too. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm doing the best I can. I really am. And there's like, look, it's great to, my strategy in life is to learn from others so that I don't have to learn from my own mistakes. I would rather learn from other people's mistakes, and I try to do this as often as I can. Unfortunately, in any business endeavor, you are going to have to make mistakes, and mistakes hurt. They hurt really bad, but I'm not young anymore. I'm 47, so I'm not particularly young. I'm not old, but I'm not young anymore. I'm middle age times, whatever. Like I still got plenty of time left, but for me, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I have a family, I have kids, I have 2 kids in university, you know what I'm saying? Like, all of this stuff, like, it's expensive. I can't afford a major failure in my life. And what I need is a major risk. So what I have to do is a bunch of small risks and try and minimize the loss and maximize the gain. It is what it is. If I could find a way, and I know it's all on me, but if anybody has ideas, hit me up. I'm trying to find ways to be able to get revenue coming in, more passive than not, so that I can free up more time to actually engage in these creative endeavors and have the money to one, do them, to support my lifestyle, which is not extravagant at all. I don't own a house. I'm in an apartment. You know what I'm saying? Way cheaper than owning a house. And on top of that, being able to have the time to afford myself to be able to do this stuff, So I need to have the time. I need to have the money to support myself. I need to have the money to support the project itself. And then I need to have the money to advertise the thing. And it's a big deal. It is. So all of the creative stuff that's in my head that I've had in my head since I was a teenager, sometimes it's hard to find a good medium to get them out, but I'm trying very slowly but surely to get them all out, you know? Really good, in my opinion, really good stories. But it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I either make them happen or I don't, and it's 100% on me. So, yeah, I'm just understand, guys, I'm trying. I really am. I'm trying, and RPGs might not be the way to do it because then it's my vision, but I'm allowing other people to interfere with the vision, and I'm creative enough to get people to do the things that I want them to do in their own way. But so like I have the beginning, I initiate the beginning and I lead them to the end, and I have the ability to make these two things line up, but I allow the players to find their own paths to get to those places. So they're not necessarily railroaded, while at the same time they are. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a weird game that I constantly play, right? And I think I'm really good at it. Back in the Nerdarchy days, I was able to incorporate the chat and allow the chat to, to participate in the game. Like I was able to award karma to the chat so that they could also participate in the game and be their own, characters. They all chose to be animals, and on the side that were doing things. And in the final battle against Apocalypse and Dracula, like they actually, participated in a major way. And like, it's funny, man. Like you had people who were devoted to this game, and it's like, I was obviously doing a good thing. And I think I was getting burnt out. I was doing too much. And I know I was getting burnt out. Dave told me, he's like, Bill, you're going to burn out. And I was too stupid to listen to him. It is what it is. I don't know. It is what it is. So, I don't know. I'll try and figure some things out. I'll try and get some of these creative endeavors out. It's just going to take some time. And any ideas, I'm willing to listen to them. There's the chat below. There are plenty of guys who I talk to, plenty of people, not just men, like guys, just people, Plenty of people who I've talked to enough that I've actually given them my phone number and we talk on a pretty consistent basis, some of us. So maybe you're one of those people, who would actually add value to my life and I can add value to your lives. One of those guys is the person I'm doing the RPG with. Like, that person's coming with me all the way to the end. If this thing gets funded, if this thing gets put out, this guy's going to get, if I get rich off of this guy's going to get rich off of it also. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, my buddy Rich, with, I know he keeps on saying, I don't need anything. Yeah, shut up. If I get rich off of something that, that he came up with the initial idea for it, there's no conversation there, bud. You're getting dragged right along with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, yeah. A rising tide lifts all ships equally. Where you're on the ship is different, but it lifts all the ships the same. So, yeah, for me, like, I don't know. I need to focus more. I'm multitasking. I know that that's a recipe for a failure, and yet I'm having a hard time trying to not multitask. Anyway, guys, that's what's happening in a nutshell. That's the game. That's everything that I'm trying to do with the channel. That's everything. Is what it is. So that's it for me, guys. Like the video, watch an ad, and yeah, leave some kind of comment. Leave something, and if you've got some kind of an idea or something of how I can, or an idea for something, and maybe I can, we can do something together, or just anything that you'd like to see. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to ideas. And yeah, that's it. Talk to you guys later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.